After using the Mini 2 extensively over the last 6 months, I've decided on one change I'd like made to the camera's capability, and it might surprise you what it is. I'd love to know if you agree, so don't go away. Hey guys, Mike here and welcome back to the channel. Now I've been using the Mini 2 heaps over the last 6 months and have dialed in a number of settings that have enabled me to capture what I reckon are some pretty half decent photos and videos. But we're never too happy, right? We're kind of hardwired to want more and better. So there is one thing I'd like to be able to see changed in the Mini 2, and I'd love to see if you agree. Before I share what that is, have a think yourself about the one thing you would like changed, and we'll see if we match up. Now don't get me wrong, the Mini 2 is a fantastic drone and I think we all agree it has pretty much hit the sweet spot when it comes to quality, size, functionality and of course price. I've heard from plenty of my subscribers who have traded in their larger and more capable drones for the Mini 2 due to its portability and ability to operate discreetly without attracting lots of attention, while at the same time producing some high quality images and video. There's a bunch of other very valid reasons why people have switched too, and I've covered those in a previous video which I'll link down below. There's also been a lot of speculation about the potential release of an upgrade to the Mini 2, the DJI Mini 3, but to date we've seen very little to suggest that it'll be coming anytime soon. On this and many other channels we've talked about what we would like to see in the Mini 3, and that list includes everything from optical avoidance sensors to a larger camera sensor, weatherproofing, active track capability and a larger battery with more flight time. So there's more than a couple of wishlist videos available to get your brains racing, links below. Now I've thought long and hard about this because it's really easy to just say something you know is not going to happen, is unrealistic, or is just asking a bit much. DJI, like any product manufacturer, has to create a certain product hierarchy and architecture within their range. They have to differentiate their products enough to give customers a valid reason to trade up and to spend the extra money on the next tier or product in their range. Otherwise, it all gets very confusing for the customer, or you end up with budget end products having just as many features as the top end products. That's why it's actually quite hard for DJI because they've already built so much capability into the Mini 2, which is why drones like the Air 2S have to provide quite a step up. So to decide on what I want changed, if I could do something to the Mini 2, I had to think about what I'm using it for and what I would want to get out of the drone that's different to what I'm getting now. As I said, I've been using it quite extensively and think I'm getting some not too bad images and video out of it, but I'd like to get just a little bit more. So if I could wave a magic wand and change just one thing about my Mini 2 drone at the moment, I'd like it to increase the frame rate capability in 2.7K to include 120 frames per second. Now I would settle on an increase to 120 frames per second at 1080p if 2.7K 120 FPS was not possible, or even if that wasn't possible, and I know some of you would seriously disagree with me, the introduction of 720p at 120 frames per second. Now I'll explain how and why I want to do this, but first I'm interested to know if that was on your wish list. Let me know in the comments section below. Now I'm certainly not an expert in how the mechanics of this works, but we have seen changes like this in other cameras made possible through a firmware update. It may also rely on the processor's capability to cope with this, which is why I didn't ask for this frame rate bump at 4K resolution, because based on experience with other cameras, I think it would be way too much. It may well be too much for 2.7K and possibly 1080p, which is why I threw in the other option of 720p at 120 frames a second. Now the reason I'd like to have this capability is because I've reviewed lots and lots of Mini 2 footage, both my own and other people's, and I think that by far the most pleasing to watch is the slow cinematic type of footage that really does justice to landscapes, nature, water and many other picturesque scenes that the Mini 2 is perfect for capturing. Also, consider that one of the main target customer groups for the Mini 2 are beginner drone pilots or people buying a drone for the first time. Now, as many of you know, it takes time to build up the skill and muscle memory required to manually capture smooth footage at higher resolutions and slower frame rates. One of the ways that would make it easier to capture smooth footage, particularly for beginner pilots, is to give them the ability to be able to slow their footage down, to be able to give them a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to controlling their drone. Yes, I know you can still butcher 120 frames per second footage by drastic movements of the aircraft, but if you're trying to be slow and careful, combined with the ability to slow down the footage, it increases your chances of getting a good, usable result. Another thing to consider is that YouTube, Instagram and other platforms compress video when it's uploaded and displayed, so your glorious 4K footage is very rarely seen the way it's intended. Yes, I know there's all the arguments about uploading in a higher resolution to help offset the compression that's applied to it and all of that, but seriously, Go and find some videos on YouTube, and there are plenty of them, that show comparisons between high resolution footage and footage shot at lower resolutions, and in many cases it's hard to tell the difference. Having said that, when I can shoot at high resolutions, I do, because it does give you more options and flexibility in post-production, but that's the subject of another video. So what do you think? Do you agree, or do you have a different point of view? Or if you could change something on the Mini 2 realistically, what might it be? Tell me in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Now, having said all of that about using higher frame rates as one potential hack to get cinematic footage, or at least make it a little bit easier, there are definitely ways to do it by getting to know your drone, knowing what it can do and what it can't do, by practicing and by using some of the tips I have shared in these videos, including knowing the best settings and one super useful hardware hack in this video, or by taking advantage of a software hack update in this video. Either way, you'll learn something and be capturing cinematic footage in no time. Click on one of the links and I'll see you over there. Cheers guys.